Alright, good people, today we are making a pomegranate molasses glazed rack of lamb. And the first thing that we're going to do, or we're going to have to do, is actually make the pomegranate molasses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I make my pomegranate molasses and ingredients that I use and how it is done. First of all, the most important thing is you have to use 100% pomegranate juice. Not from concentrated pomegranate juice. I use 100% pomegranate juice. You know I need to get that sponsorship, right? Smart Juice. But anyway, so that 100% pomegranate juice is crucial. I mean, it could be any pomegranate juice as long as it's 100% pomegranate juice, not from concentrate. I've used other pomegranate juice that were from concentrate and it did not work as well. So make sure it is not from concentrate. So we're gonna do a medium heat. Get that stovetop in a saucepan that is non-stick, and I pour a cup of the pomegranate juice into the saucepan. So 1 cup of the pomegranate juice. And I use sugar in the raw for my sugar. Again, do that sponsorship, but anyway. So I use sugar in the raw, and I use 1 cup, and I'm sorry, a half a cup of sugar in the raw. So it's a half a cup of sugar in the raw and 1 cup of the pomegranate juice. That's it. So we do that, turn that heat up on medium, and we start to let that heat up. So what you want to do is you want to slowly mix that sugar and that pomegranate juice as it is heating up. And you want to get it to a boil. You want to get that sugar dissolved in there. So as it's heating, just periodically mix that sugar up and get it dissolving. And make sure you just be patient, because it takes a little while for this to reduce down. So just be patient. I mean, it can take up to almost a half hour to actually get this molasses consistency that we're looking for. So just keep stirring it and let it boil. And then after it's boiled for a little while, turn the heat down a little bit and just continue to cook it. So as the pomegranate juice starts to get into that nice molasses state, it'll start foaming up. Start seeing that foam coming in there. It's getting close. It's really starting to reduce down. It's going to be a sweet pomegranate glaze. With that molasses consistency once it's all said and done. Just keep stirring it. Don't let it burn. And you can actually make a pomegranate hard candy this way. You reduce this all the way down and you can actually get it to the point where you can roll it into a candy. So we got this at a pretty good consistency right here. Just about set. And it will thicken up and become a nice molasses glaze for our rack of lamb. So this is our rack of lamb, and it is an Australian organic rack of lamb that I washed and let air dry in the refrigerator. So there's not a lot of moisture in there. So we're gonna prep the rack of lamb up and get it ready to go into the frying pan. So basically what I'm going to do is I am going to brown it, render the fat and brown it in the cast iron pan, and I am going to glaze it with the pomegranate molasses we made and then stick it in the oven to finish it off. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some cuts in here, just do some diagonals in this fat and get that cut up. And we're only going to actually put some pink Himalayan sea salt on this. So I'm going to get some pink Himalayan sea salt, rub it in there, pat it down. And then I am going to take some rosemary and actually just break this off into little pieces and pat this rosemary up into here. One of the other things is that in the skillet, in the cast iron pan that we're going to render this fat in and cook it, has some garlic cloves, more rosemary, a little olive oil, and butter. So let's get it on. So what I'm going to do is I am going to heat up the cast iron skillet. I'm going to get that butter melted. I'm going to get that rosemary and that olive oil and garlic blended together before we put our lamb in. So while this butter melts down and this rosemary starts to get that nice flavor into that butter, and this garlic gets that flavor into that butter, I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you watching The Dreaded Fisherman. Remember, I am not a chef, I am just a fisherman. And don't forget to watch my other cooking, catch and cook videos. I really appreciate it. That is smelling so good right now. Just to smell that rosemary and that garlic and that butter. Smells so good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add our rack of lamb and start rendering that fat. Take that with the fat down. Get that in there. And let that fat start rendering down. Just smelling that, so good. And once some of that fat renders, what we will end up doing is we will start basting a little bit of that butter, garlic, rosemary onto the lamb. So now we have the oven set for 350 degrees. You can smell that rosemary and that garlic and that fat rendering, and we're going to give that lamb a nice little look. Oh, look at that color there. Perfect. Let's get that top portion there cooking up a little bit before we lay it down. Here we go. Look at that. Nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to baste that a little bit while get that rosemary and that garlic and that butter and that rendered lamb fat. And we're going to baste it while the other side cooks a little bit. With this rosemary garlic blend. And we're going to also get these sides up there, get these ends done also. There you go. Get this other end done. A little bit more. Put her down. Just gonna baste it with this butter a little bit more. This rosemary. Now that oven is heated up to 350 degrees. And what we're gonna do now is we are going to get our pomegranate molasses and glaze it with our pomegranate molasses. Now, if you can see, this is our pomegranate molasses we made. You can see the consistency of that pomegranate molasses. And we just want to glaze that lamb with that good pomegranate molasses we made. Just getting it all over that lamb. Make sure we get the sides all across the front. Get all that good pomegranate molasses out. And just coat that lamb with it. You can smell it. Smells so good. Get all on that side with that. Don't forget every little bit of that pomegranate molasses. And from there, my friends, we are going to put that in the oven. That's been heated to 350 degrees. So we bake this in the oven for, depending on if you want it medium well, rare, whatever. You can do that according to your liking. I like it medium. And once I bake it in the oven, I do it for about 20 minutes. I put it under the broiler and let the broiler just get the rest of that fat rendered on top and soak that pomegranate molasses in. This is going to be one of the side dishes that I'm making with the pomegranate molasses glazed rack of lamb. This is a sweet potato sage dish, and basically it is sliced sweet potatoes with Himalayan pink salt, fresh sage, coated with olive oil, and it will be baked in the oven at 350 degrees until tender. The second side dish that's going to accompany the pomegranate molasses glazed rack of lamb is some long beans with a sweet bell pepper. So now what I did was I boiled the long beans a little bit, got the long beans boiled and tender, and I am going to transfer them into a pan, and I am going to saute them in butter with olive oil and a little bit of sweet bell peppers. So we're going to get these peppers ready. A little bit of olive oil, a little bit of butter, the sweet peppers. Get them going a little bit. And then we're going to toss our long beans in. So we're going to add a little bit of fresh basil leaves and a little pink Himalayan sea salt. Turn that fire down. And then we're going to add our beans. So now I'm going to add our long beans into that mix. Get them coated a little bit with that olive oil. And that's all she wrote. Our long beans are ready. And here you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Dreaded Fisherman's Pomegranate Molasses glazed lamb chops, long green beans, and sweet potatoes with fresh sage.
Yeah, now break it down like.
Once again, I'd like to say thanks for watching The Dreaded Fisherman, and I am looking forward to digging into this very fragrant pomegranate molasses glazed lamb chops. These long beans are really nice and tender. Long beans are very good. Long beans actually are really nice and sweet too. These are sweet potatoes, super tender and moist. I wrap this cast iron pan with foil when I put it in the oven with the olive oil. It's sweet and salty. It has a little bit of that Himalayan sea salt on top. So you get that little crunch from that salty sea salt and the sweetness of the yam. Very good. And now, let's dig into one of these nice lamb chops. Oh my gosh, if you could smell this. This lamb chop is super moist, very tender. That pomegranate molasses is just a little sweet and tangy. Oh my gosh, it's just sweet, tangy, very, very tender. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I appreciate you. This is the Dreaded Fisherman. I'm just a fisherman. I am not the chef. Have a good one. Peace.